His presence alone is a testament to the truth. Liam Holloway stands at the back of the boardroom, his hands clasped loosely behind him. He does not look at the man being condemned. He does not look at the board members, whose faces are a mixture of shock and dawning fury. He looks only at her, Eleanor Vance. He watches her stand at the head of the long mahogany table, her voice calm and steady, her posture radiating a strength that was not there 3 months ago. She holds a single polished steel component in her hand, a small, dense piece of a legacy, their legacy, and in this moment of quiet, devastating victory, all he can think about is the smell of salt and evening air, the weight of his sleeping daughter in his arms, and the way the setting sun looked on the water just last night, with Eleanor standing right beside him. The morning air is cool and carries the scent of low tide, diesel, and wet wood. Liam Holloway breathes it in. It is a smell he knows better than any other. He stands at the edge of the dock, a heavy canvas tool bag in one hand, a small, warm hand in the other. "Is that boat sad, Daddy?" Lily's voice is a small, clear bell in the morning quiet. She points with her free hand at the sea serpent, a 40-foot trawler listing slightly in its slip. A film of green algae clings to its waterline. Liam looks where she points. He considers the boat for a long moment. "It's not sad," he says, his voice a low rumble. "It's just tired. It needs a rest." "Can you make it not tired?" she asks. "That's the plan," he answers. They walk together, their steps echoing on the weathered planks. Liam's gait is slow and deliberate, matching the shorter steps of his 6-year-old daughter. She carries a worn sketchbook and a small tin of colored pencils, her most important tools. Her dark hair is in 2 neat braids, just like he fixes it every morning. His workshop is the last one at the end of a dock. It is less a building and more a large, tidy cave carved out of the marina's daily chaos. The wide roll-up door is open to the water, letting in the light and the air. Inside, everything has a place. Wrenches and drivers hang in clean, orderly rows. Calipers and gauges rest on felt cloths. In the center of the concrete floor sits a massive marine engine, a Perkins V8, mounted on a heavy steel stand. It is a complex metal heart, mid-transplant. Liam sets his bag down with a soft thud. Lily immediately goes to her corner. It is a space marked by a small, brightly colored rug. A child-sized table and chair sit upon it. She opens her sketchbook, selects a blue pencil, and begins to draw. The only sound is the gentle scratch of her pencil on paper and the distant cry of a gull. Liam pulls on a pair of worn leather gloves. He approaches the Perkins V8. He does not turn on a radio. He does not check his phone. He simply stands before the engine for a full minute, just looking. Eyes trace the fuel lines, the intricate wiring harness, the solid block of the crankcase. He is listening to what it is not saying. He spends the next 2 hours in a state of focused silence. His hands move with an economy and grace that is mesmerizing to watch. There is no wasted motion. A bolt is loosened, a housing is removed, a gasket is inspected, its brittle surface telling a story of heat and time. He works with the patience of a man who understands that rushing is the most expensive mistake. Around 10 o'clock, a new sound intrudes, the crunch of expensive shoes on the gravel path that leads to his workshop. Liam does not look up. Unscheduled visitors with expensive shoes are rarely a good thing. A shadow falls across the engine block. "This is him, Holloway." The voice is smooth, confident, and edged with a familiar condescension. Liam knows it without turning. Marcus Thorne, Chief Operating Officer of Vance Maritime. A man who wears his ambition like a tailored suit. Liam finishes tightening a hose clamp. He straightens up slowly and turns. Eleanor Vance stands beside Marcus, her arms crossed over a severe grey blazer. She is tall, with her father's sharp blue eyes, and a tension in her jaw that speaks of new, uncomfortable authority. Liam has seen her picture in trade magazines. The inheritor CEO, the woman now in charge of the empire her father, Robert Vance, had built. She looks from Liam's grease-stained overalls to the organized chaos of his workshop. Her gaze is analytical, cold. She does not see the order. She sees only the grime. She does not notice the small girl in the corner, who has stopped drawing and is now watching the adults with wide, serious eyes. Mr. Holloway, Margaret says, the title a subtle insult. This is Miss Vance. She's touring the company's assets. Liam gives a short, single nod. He says nothing. He simply waits. Marcus tells me your work on the flagship refit is behind schedule, Eleanor says. Her voice is crisp, devoid of any warmth. He says your billing is excessive. Liam's gaze remains steady. He looks directly at her, past the power and the blazer, and the grief she wears like armor. He does not look at Marcus. He will not give the man that satisfaction. The work takes the time it takes, Liam says. The words are plain, unadorned. The cost is the cost of doing it right. A flicker of something, annoyance perhaps, crosses Eleanor's face. She is accustomed to deference, to explanations, to apologies. She receives none of them. My father's company is built on efficiency and innovation, she says, the words sounding rehearsed, like a line from a press release. We can't afford to be sentimental about old methods or independent contractors who don't align with our forward. Facing strategy. Marcus smiles, a thin, predatory smile. That's what I've been telling you, Eleanor. We need to streamline, consolidate our resources with partners who are part of the team. Liam feels Lily's small presence behind him. She has moved from her corner to stand near the engine stand, her sketchbook held against her chest like a shield. He does not want her to hear this. The contract for the Heritage Fleet maintenance, Eleanor says, her gaze unwavering. We're terminating it, effective immediately. We'll be moving the work in-house. The air in the workshop becomes very still. The distant gull cries again. The water slaps gently against the pilings outside. This contract is more than a job. It is a promise. A 30-year-old relationship between his own small business and Robert Vance himself. It is the work he loves, the classic engines her father designed. Liam does not argue. He does not protest. He does not mention the decades of loyalty or the late-night calls from her father to solve a problem no one else could. He does not point out that Marcus Thorne wouldn't know a piston from a pushrod. He just holds her gaze for a long count of 5. Then, he gives another short, single nod. He turns his back on them. He picks up a clean rag and begins to wipe the grease from a wrench, his movements as slow and deliberate as before. He hears Marcus's quiet, triumphant chuckle. He hears the crunch of their shoes as they walk away. He does not watch them go. He finishes wiping the wrench, and then another and another. Only when the sound of their footsteps has completely faded does he allow himself to stop. He places the wrench back in its designated spot on the wall. Daddy? He turns to Lily. Her face is a perfect portrait of concern. Was that lady mad at you? She asks. She was having a bad day, Liam says, his voice softer now. He walks over and kneels in front of her. It's okay. She didn't look very happy, Lily observes. No, Liam agrees. She didn't. He takes her hand, its warmth a small anchor in the sudden, cold emptiness of the day. He slowly begins to pack his tools. Not the ones for the Perkins V8, the ones for the Vance Heritage Fleet, the ones he will no longer need. The view from Eleanor Vance's office on the 35th floor is spectacular. It encompasses the entire sweep of the bay, the distant islands, and the endless blue of the Pacific. It is a view of power, of ownership. It brings her no comfort. She stands at the floor-to-ceiling window, her arms crossed, replaying the scene at the marina for the 10th time. The smell of oil and salt, the quiet competence of the workshop, and the man, Holloway. It is his reaction, or lack of it, that bothers her. He had not flinched. He had not raised his voice. He had not pleaded his case. He had simply looked at her. His eyes were a calm, clear gray, like the sea on a winter morning. There was no anger in them, no fear, nothing, or something she could not name. a quiet, unbreachable dignity. Then he had turned his back on her, on the CEO of Vance Maritime, and started cleaning his tools. A good move, Eleanor. Decisive. Marcus is leaning against the doorframe of her office, swirling amber liquid in a heavy crystal glass. He has been insufferably pleased with himself all afternoon. He was a relic, Marcus continues, a drain on resources. Your father was too sentimental about him. It's good to finally clear out the dead wood. My father trusted him, Eleanor says, the words coming out before she can stop them. Your father was a brilliant designer, but he had a soft spot for these artisanal types. Marcus dismisses with a wave of his glass. This is a billion-dollar corporation now, not a hobby shop. You did the right thing. She turns from the window to look at him. Why did he just stand there? Why didn't he say anything? Marcus shrugs, taking a sip of his drink. What could he say? He was caught. Guys like that, they're all pride. When you call them out, they just shut down. Guilty conscience. It does not feel right. The explanation is too simple, too neat. It does not match the man's eyes. It does not match the deliberate, patient way he moved. And there was something else, a flash of color, a small figure standing in the shadows of the workshop. A child. She remembers it now. A little girl with dark braids holding a sketchbook. Holloway's daughter, presumably. He had moved to stand between the child and them, a subtle, protective gesture. She had fired a man in front of his child. The thought leaves a sour taste in her mouth. She pushes it away. It is business. It has to be business. She has a legacy to protect, a board to answer to, and a company to steer through the choppy waters of a competitive market. She cannot afford to be sentimental. But as she sits down at her father's enormous desk, her desk now, she cannot shake the image of those calm grey eyes and the profound, unsettling silence that followed her judgment. 2 days later, the sky turns the color of a bruise. The wind picks up, whipping the flags on the corporate plaza into a frantic frenzy. A storm is rolling in off the Pacific, a big one. Eleanor is working late, as she always does. The building is empty, the silence is broken only by the hum of the climate control and the rising howl of the wind against the glass. She is supposed to be at a charity gala, an event Marcus insisted was crucial for networking. She has no desire to go. Instead, she finds herself driving not home to her sterile condominium, but toward the coast, toward the marina where her father kept his boat. The North Star. It is a beautiful 30-year-old vessel, the first of the Vance Corsair line. Her father's first true masterpiece. She has not set foot on it since he died. It feels like a betrayal to use it without him. But tonight, she needs to be near something of his, something real. The marina is being battered by the storm. Rain comes down in sheets, and the wind screams through the rigging of the sailboats, creating a high, mournful orchestra. She parks and runs through the downpour, the key to the North Star clutched in her hand. Once aboard, she ducks into the cabin, soaked and shivering. The interior smells of teak oil, salt, and her father's pipe tobacco, a ghost of a scent. It is comforting and heartbreaking all at once. She wants to feel close to him, to ask him for guidance, to ask if she is doing the right thing. On an impulse, she decides to start the engines, just to hear them run. It was a sound her father loved, the deep, throaty rumble of the twin Corsair V12s he had designed and built with his own hands. She goes through the startup sequence, her movements rusty but remembered from a childhood spent on this very boat. She turns the key for the port engine. Click. Nothing. She tries again. Click. A faint electrical whine, then silence. The starboard engine turns over, sputters, and then dies with a cough. A sense of panic, cold and sharp, cuts through her grief. She is alone in a storm, on a dead boat. She finds the marina's emergency contact number on a faded sticker near the radio. She dials, her fingers trembling slightly. A gruff voice answers. Marina dispatch. I need a mechanic, she says, trying to keep her voice steady. I'm on the North Star, E-Doc. The engines won't start. It's a bad night for it, the voice grumbles. I'll see who I can send. Might be a while. It is more than an hour. An hour she spends listening to the storm rage and the boat groan against its moorings. She feels small and helpless. Finally, she sees the beam of a powerful flashlight cutting through the rain, moving steadily down the dock. A figure in heavy-duty rain gear appears, head down against the wind. He carries a familiar canvas tool bag. He steps aboard the North Star with the easy balance of a man born to the sea. He pulls back his hood. It is Liam Holloway. For a moment they just stare at each other. The wind howls. The rain drums on the cabin roof. His face is unreadable, beaded with water. He does not say, "You again." He does not say, "You have some nerve calling me." He says, "Port or starboard?" "Both," she manages to say, her voice barely a whisper. He nods, then gets to work. He opens the engine hatch, seemingly oblivious to the driving rain. He switches on a work light, illuminating the twin V12s. For the second time, she watches him work. This time, there is no public slight, no power play. Just a person in trouble and a person who can help. His hands are sure and swift as they move over the engines her father built. He traces wires, checks terminals, taps gauges. He works in the heart of the storm as if it were a calm summer afternoon. There is a profound peace in his competence. From the corner of her eye, she sees movement in the cab of his old pickup truck, parked at the head of the dock. It's his daughter, Lily. She is sitting in the passenger seat, a small light on, drawing in her sketchbook, waiting for her father, in a storm, in the middle of the night. After 20 minutes, Liam looks up at Eleanor. "Your battery selector switch is corroded," he says, "and your starboard fuel filter is clogged. It's been sitting too long." He works for another half an hour, replacing the switch from a part in his bag, then carefully bleeding the fuel line. He does not speak again until he is finished. "Try it now," he says, wiping his hands on a rag. She turns the key. The port engine roars to life instantly, a deep, powerful rumble that vibrates through the deck. She turns the other key. The starboard engine joins its twin, and the boat settles into a smooth, potent idle. The sound is beautiful. It is the sound of her childhood. Tears prick her eyes. "Thank you," she says. The words feel inadequate. He just nods, beginning to pack his tools. The job is done. As he is about to leave, a small figure appears at the cabin door, holding up a drawing. It's Lily, wrapped in a bright yellow raincoat. She must have run from the truck between squalls. She holds the drawing out to Eleanor. Eleanor takes it. The paper is slightly damp. It shows two boats. The first has a jagged, sad-looking mouth and scribbled storm clouds above it. The second has a wide, happy smile and a bright yellow sun. "Daddy makes the boats happy again," Lily says, her voice full of simple, unshakable faith. Eleanor looks from the drawing to the little girl and then to Liam, who is watching them, his expression soft for the first time. In that moment, standing in the rain on her father's boat, the billion-dollar corporation and the forward-facing strategies feel very far away. All that feels real is the perfect hum of the engines, the innocent truth in a child's drawing, and the quiet man who, despite her cruelty, came out in a storm to help her. "How much do I owe you?" Eleanor asks, her voice thick with emotion. Liam looks at her for a long moment. He does not look at the boat, or the engines, or the money she represents. He looks at her. "The marina will send you a bill," he says. Then he takes Lily's hand, and they disappear back into the storm. The phrase echoes in Eleanor's mind for days. Battery selector switch is corroded. It is not the phrase itself, but how he said it. And something else he had muttered while working, something she almost missed. Classic Vance. He always over-engineered the charging relay, but used a standard marine-grade selector. First thing to fail. It was an observation of profound familiarity. Not a criticism, but a statement of fact, like one might make about a beloved, flawed family member. Who was this man to her father? The question becomes an obsession. Marcus's explanation of a guilty conscience now seems laughably thin. Guilt does not come out in a storm to fix the engine of the person who just fired you. She needs to know more. Her search leads her to a quiet street in a leafy suburb, to the home of George Ashworth. George had been her father's head of R&D for 40 years and his closest friend. He retired the day after her father's funeral, refusing to work under the new regime. She finds him in his garden, tending to his roses. He is a kind-faced man with a shock of white hair and hands stained with dirt. He looks surprised to see her. "Eleanor," he says, wiping his hands on his trousers. "This is unexpected, George. I'm sorry to bother you," she begins. "I have some questions about my father." He leads her to a sun-drenched patio and brings her a glass of iced tea. He waits, his expression patient, discerning. "I was at the marina," she says. "On the North Star, the engines wouldn't start." George smiles faintly. "Let me guess, the selector switch?" Eleanor stares at him. "How did you know? Robert, God rest his soul, could design an engine block to withstand a torpedo. But he always skimped on the switches," George says with a fond chuckle. "A young man used to give him hell for it. Told him it was like building a cathedral with a wooden door hinge." "A young man?" Eleanor presses, leaning forward. George's expression becomes guarded. He studies her face, his gaze sharp. "Why are you asking, Eleanor, after all this time?" "I met a mechanic, Liam Holloway. We had a disagreement. I terminated his contract with the company." The warmth vanishes from George's face. He sets his glass down with a quiet click. "You did what?" Marcus Thorne advised it. He said Holloway was unreliable, overcharging. "Marcus Thorne is a vulture who has been circling this company for 20 years, George says, his voice low and cold. "And you listen to him. It is not a question. It is an indictment." Eleanor flinches. "I didn't know. I'm trying to understand. Who is he, George? Who is Liam Holloway to my father?" George is silent for a long time, watching her, weighing her. He seems to be searching for some trace of Robert Vance in her face. "Liam Holloway," he finally says, his voice filled with a deep old anger, "was your father's protege, his partner, the son he never had. He wasn't just a mechanic. He was a design genius. Your father found him when he was 19, working at a backwater boatyard, able to diagnose engines by sound alone. Robert took him under his wing. Half the innovations in the Vance engines from the last 15 years came from Liam's mind." Eleanor feels the blood drain from her face. "They designed the Corsair V12 together," George continues, "on a napkin in a diner. Robert did the block. Liam perfected the fuel injection and the cooling. He was the hands, the ears, the one who could feel what the machines needed. Your father was going to make him a full partner." "What happened?" she whispers. "Life happened," George says sadly. "Liam met a girl, got married, had a beautiful daughter. Then 5 years ago his wife got sick, cancer, fast. He lost her. After that, he was broken. He told your father he couldn't be in the corporate world anymore. He couldn't be in boardrooms or on the road. All he wanted was to be with his little girl, to raise her, so he stepped away. He started his own small shop, just doing the work. Your father understood. He set up the heritage maintenance contract to make sure Liam was always taken care of, always connected to the work he loved. It was a pact between them." George leans forward, his eyes boring into hers. "And Marcus Thorne, who always hated that your father preferred a grease monkey to him, saw his chance. When Robert died, he knew he could finally cut Liam out. And he used you, Robert's own daughter, to do it. The truth lands like a physical blow, the public humiliation, the stoic silence, the child in the workshop, the repair in the storm. It all snaps into a new, horrifying focus. She had not just fired a contractor. She had desecrated her father's legacy. She finds an excuse, a full diagnostic on the North Star, a complete systems check. she calls the marina and specifically requests Liam Holloway. The dispatcher is hesitant. "He's not on the Vance account anymore, ma'am. This is a personal request," she says, her voice firm. "I will pay his private rate." When he arrives the next day, she is waiting on the dock. She does not wear a blazer. She is in jeans and a simple sweater. "Mr. Holloway," she says, "thank you for coming." He just nods, his face giving nothing away. He gets his tools and begins his work. She does not leave. She stays. She watches from a respectful distance. She sees the way he lays each tool on a clean cloth, the way he labels each part he removes, the way he talks to the engines, a low, running murmur of encouragement and inquiry. This is not a job, it is a communion. Lily is there too. She sits on a cleat on the dock, her sketchbook in her lap, drawing the boat. At one point Liam calls her over. He points to a part of the engine. "See this," he says. "This is the water pump. It's like the engine's heart. It pumps the coolant to keep it from getting too hot." Lily watches, her face serious, absorbing the information. He is not just a father. He is a teacher. He is passing on his world to her, piece by piece. Eleanor feels a profound ache in her chest, a longing for something she cannot name, a connection this real, this pure. She has spent her life in boardrooms, learning about balance sheets and market projections. He has spent his life learning the language of machines, of loyalty, of a love so deep it made him walk away from a fortune just to be present for his child. She had called him a relic. She sees now that he is the authentic thing, and she is the one who is out of date. Paragraph George's final words to her were a riddle. Robert kept his real treasures in a shipwright's chest, not a bank vault. He said, "Paper assets burn, but good wood and good steel endure." That night she searches her father's study. It is a room she has mostly avoided, preserved exactly as he left it. In the corner, under an old nautical chart of the Channel Islands, sits a large dark wood chest with brass fittings. A sea chest. It is locked. After a frantic search, she finds the key in a small carved box where her father kept his old naval medals. Her hand trembles as she turns the lock. The lid lifts with a soft groan. The chest smells of old paper, leather and cedar. On top are charts, a brass sextant, and a copy of Moby Dick with a broken spine. Beneath them she finds it, a heavy leather-bound folio embossed with the gold letters VMD, Vance Maritime Design. She lifts it out and places it on her father's desk. With a deep breath, she opens it. The pages are filled with exquisite, hand-drawn schematics and engineering notes in her father's familiar scrawl. Blueprints for the Corsair V-12, for the propulsion system of the company's first container ship, for a dozen innovations that built the Vance empire. And on the bottom of each key design there are two signatures, Robert Vance, and beside it, in a younger, more fluid script, Liam Holloway. Her breath catches. George was telling the truth. It is all here, the proof of a partnership she never knew existed. Tucked into a side pocket of the folio is a thick envelope. Inside are letters. Letters from her father to Liam. "Liam, your solution for the injector resonance is more than brilliant. It's elegant. You have the gift, my boy. Don't listen to the suits. They see costs. We see performance. We are building cathedrals, not sheds. I'm proud of you, more than I can say. You honor the work." At the very bottom is another envelope, this one addressed to her father. The postmark is dated 5 years ago. She slides out the single, folded page. It is from Liam. "Robert, I can't thank you enough for the offer. A partnership is more than I ever dreamed of. But I can't accept. Not now. Since Sarah passed, every minute away from Lily feels like a theft. She's all I have left of her. She's all that matters. The boardrooms, the travel. I can't do it. I have to be her father, first and only. I also need to warn you. Thorne approached me again about selling him my independent patents. He is not to be trusted. My place is in the workshop now. It's where I can do good work and still be home to tuck my daughter in at night. I hope you understand. Your friend, Liam." Clipped to this letter is a small note in her father's aging, shaky hand. It is addressed to her. Eleanor, if you are reading this, it means I am gone and you are trying to find your way. Do not trust Thorn. Trust this man, Liam Holloway. He is our integrity. He is our legacy. Protect him. Dad, the folio, the letters, the note, a trinity of truths, the full depth of Marcus's treachery, the staggering depth of her father's respect for Liam, and the quiet, noble sacrifice of a man who chose his daughter over a dynasty. The room spins. She grips the edge of the desk, the tears she has held back for months finally falling, hot and silent. She is not crying for her father. She is crying for her own profound, terrible blindness. It is nearly midnight when she pulls up to his workshop. The lights are on. She can see his silhouette moving inside. She gets out of the car, holding the leather folio against her chest. She walks into the light of the open bay door. He is standing at his workbench, carefully cleaning a carburetor part. He looks up, his expression wary. She does not say anything. She walks to the workbench and places the folio down between them. She opens it to a page with both their signatures. He looks down at the drawing, then back up at her. His grey eyes are deep, unreadable pools. I'm sorry, she says. Her voice is a raw whisper. I didn't know. He studies her face for a long time, the silence stretching between them. He looks at the folio, a flicker of old memory in his eyes. He gently closes the cover. Why didn't you tell me? She asks, her voice breaking. When I was there that day. Why did you let me do that? Why didn't you fight? He picks up a soft cloth and begins to polish the tool in his hand, his gaze distant. Because you were Robert Vance's daughter, he says, his voice quiet but firm, and you were grieving. Fighting you would have meant turning my friendship with your father into a weapon. It would have meant dragging his memory and my own private life into a corporate battle with Marcus Thorn. He puts the tool down and finally looks at her directly. He was my friend, Liam says simply. He trusted me. I owed it to him to respect his daughter, even if she was wrong. And I owed it to my own daughter to walk away with my peace intact. Some things aren't for sale. His words are not an accusation. They are a statement of principle. A principle so clear, so solid, it makes her entire world feel flimsy by comparison. A small sound makes them both turn. Lily is standing in the doorway that connects the workshop to the small apartment behind it. She is in her pajamas, a stuffed bear clutched in one arm. She rubs her eyes. Daddy, she says, there was a noise. She sees Eleanor. She sees the tears on Eleanor's cheeks. Her small face creases with concern. She pads across the concrete floor to a corner of the workshop where a child's play kitchen is set up. She opens the tiny oven, takes out a small, red plastic cup and brings it over to Eleanor. She holds it up with both hands. Hot chocolate, Lily says solemnly. It makes you feel better. Eleanor looks down at the empty plastic cup, offered with such earnest sincerity. A sob catches in her throat. She kneels down, so she is on eye level with the little girl. Slowly, she reaches out and takes the cup. Thank you, she whispers. Lily gives her a small, shy smile, and then leans against her father's leg, her duty done. Liam places a gentle hand on his daughter's head, and for the first time, when Eleanor looks at him, she sees not a stranger, not an employee, but a man of impossible integrity, and an ally. Paragraph emergency is a vibration, a low, persistent shudder in the engine room of the Vance Voyager, the company's new billion-dollar flagship vessel. Is a critical flaw, one that has caused the ship to fail its final sea trials. A fleet of corporate engineers is baffled. Deadlines are looming. A massive shipping contract with the government hangs in the balance. Marcus Thorn blames residual design flaws from the old guard. He proposes a costly, time-consuming overhaul. Eleanor listens to him in the emergency meeting, her expression a mask of cool neutrality. She holds his gaze. I'm bringing in an independent consultant, she announces. She asks Liam to look at it. She does not command him, she asks. She goes to his workshop, lays out the problem, and says, "We need you." He listens, studying the schematics she brought. He asks a few quiet questions. Then he nods. "I'll need access to the ship and the original design specs, the real ones." They work together for 3 straight days. It is a seamless partnership. She navigates the corporate red tape, securing clearances, overriding protocols, and running interference against a hostile and suspicious Marcus. He moves through the cavernous engine room of the Voyager like a surgeon entering a body. He listens. He feels. He places his hands on the humming engine casings, his eyes closed in concentration. On the 3rd day, he finds it. "Here," he says, pointing to a series of mounting brackets for the main turbine. "These are wrong." He shows her on the blueprints from her father's folio. The original design called for a specific, high-tensile steel alloy with tungsten dampeners. The brackets on the ship are standard cast iron, a cheaper, inferior substitute. "Thorn," Eleanor says, her voice flat and cold. He had overseen the procurement for this part of the build. A cost-cutting measure buried deep in thousands of pages of requisitions. A way to boost his department's profit margins at the expense of the entire ship. "It's creating a harmonic resonance at high RPMs, Liam explains. "It will tear the engine from its moorings eventually." He sketches a modification on a spare sheet of paper, a way to brace the existing mounts and dampen the vibration. It is a brilliant, elegant fix that will save millions and months of work. "Can you testify to this?" she asks. He looks at her, then nods once. "Yes, the boardroom is a chamber of cold dread. Eleanor has called an emergency session of the full board of directors. Marcus Thorne sits to her right, looking smug, assuming this meeting is to approve his costly overhaul plan. Eleanor stands. She does not raise her voice. She speaks with a chilling calm. "Gentlemen," she begins, "we have identified the source of the vibration in the Voyager." She systematically lays out the facts. She projects the original design spec from her father's folio onto the large screen. Then, she projects procurement order signed by Marcus Thorne for the cheaper, inferior brackets. She presents the metallurgical analysis report. She details the exact cost savings Thorne achieved and the 100-fold potential cost of a catastrophic failure. The room is silent. The board members stare at the screen, then at Marcus, whose face has gone pale. "This is a misunderstanding," Marcus sputters. "A clerical error." "Was it a clerical error when you tried to buy Liam Holloway's patents 20 years ago?" Eleanor asks, her voice cutting through his excuse. "Was it a clerical error when you systematically pushed him out after my father died? Was it a clerical error when you lied to me and used me to sever a 30-year bond of loyalty?" Marcus is speechless. The net has closed. "I believe," Eleanor says, her voice ringing with the authority she has finally truly claimed, "that we have another consultant who can speak to the technical realities of this error." The doors at the back of the boardroom open. Liam Holloway walks in. He is wearing a clean work shirt and dark trousers. He looks neither triumphant nor nervous. He just looks solid, real. He walks to the back of the room and stands quietly, his hands clasped behind his back. All eyes are on him. His presence is an irrefutable fact. Eleanor looks at him. "Mr. Holloway," she asks, her voice clear and formal, "in your expert opinion, can this flaw be fixed?" Liam meets her gaze. His voice, when it comes, is not loud, but it fills the silent room. "It can," he says. "It should never have been broken." The simple, powerful truth of it hangs in the air. It is a verdict. The vote is immediate and unanimous. Marcus Thorne is dismissed, effective immediately. A motion is passed to begin legal proceedings and a full forensic audit of all his departments. As the meeting dissolves into a chaos of shocked conversations and urgent phone calls, Liam remains at the back of the room, a pillar of stillness. His reputation is restored. His name is cleared. He is vindicated. But he does not smile. He simply waits for her. The walk through the parking garage is quiet. The heated energy of the boardroom has faded, leaving a clean, calm emptiness in its place. The only sound is the soft scuff of their shoes on the concrete and the distant hum of the building's ventilation. They do not speak of Marcus, or the board, or the victory. There is no need. They offered you the position, Eleanor says as they reach her car. Head of engineering and design. Your old role. Your father's intended role for you. Liam looks out across the garage at the rows of silent, empty cars. I know. You're not going to take it, she says. It is not a question. My life is not on the 35th floor, he answers quietly. My life is in a workshop by the water. My life is making sure a little girl eats her vegetables and gets to bed on time. He turns to her, and for the first time, there is a hint of a smile on his face. I'll consult. I'll oversee the refit. I'll help you fix what's broken. But I'll do it from my shop, on my terms. She understands completely. He will not be pulled into her world, with its politics and its sterile glass towers. He is anchored to something more real. If they are to have a future, professional or otherwise, she will have to be the one to move. All right, she says. A wave of relief, unexpected and profound, washes over her. He is not leaving. He is just setting the boundaries of his own solid ground. The next week, she sends out a company-wide memo. It announces the formation of the Vance Legacy Skunk Works, a new elite R&D division focused on design integrity and innovation. It will be headed by consulting engineer Liam Holloway. And its headquarters will not be at corporate. It will be at the marina. The memo also states that the CEO, Eleanor Vance, will be spending Tuesdays and Thursdays working directly from the new division's satellite office, a small, previously disused space on ADOC, to personally oversee the project's integration. She is coming to his world. A few days later, he finds her on the dock watching the sunset. He walks up and stands beside her. He says nothing, just holds out his hand. In his palm is a small, heavy piece of metal. It is a governor weight from a classic Corsair V12, machined from a single piece of stainless steel and polished to a soft, warm gleam. It is an object of perfect form and function. What is it? She asks, taking it from him. It is cool and solid in her hand. It's a reminder, he says, his voice a low rumble beside her, of what good work feels like. She closes her fingers around it. It feels like an anchor, a promise. 3 months pass. The autumn air grows crisp. The Vance Voyager passes its sea trials with flying colors, its engines humming a perfect, powerful song. The government contract is secured. Vance Maritime stock is climbing, its reputation for quality and integrity restored. Liam's workshop is now officially the Skunk Works. It has new equipment, a fresh coat of paint, and 2 young, eager engineers who follow Liam around with a kind of reverent awe, learning the old magic. But the heart of it is the same. The order, the quiet, the smell of oil and sea. Lily's corner is still there, her drawings now taped to the wall, a gallery of happy boats and smiling suns. It is a Saturday in October, the sky a brilliant, cloudless blue. The North Sea cuts cleanly through the calm waters of the Sound. The twin V12s, tuned to perfection, murmur their contentment. Liam is at the stern, watching the wake unfurl like a ribbon. Eleanor is at the helm. Standing on a small stool in front of her is Lily, her small hands on the big wooden wheel, her face a mask of intense concentration. A little to port, Captain, Eleanor says, her hands resting lightly over Lily's, guiding her. A little to port, Lily repeats seriously, turning the wheel a fraction of an inch. Liam watches them. Eleanor's severe blazers have been replaced by a comfortable flannel shirt. The tension is gone from her jaw, replaced by a soft smile she seems to reserve only for his daughter. She looks at home here. On this boat, with them. They anchor in a quiet cove, the same one where her father used to take her as a child. They eat sandwiches and drink apple juice from a thermos. Lily tells Eleanor all about the different kinds of seabirds, a subject on which she is a tiny expert. Eleanor listens with genuine fascination, asking questions, her head tilted. Later, as the sun begins to dip towards the horizon, they head back. Lily, exhausted from the sea air and the responsibility of command, falls asleep in the cabin, her head in Eleanor's lap. Eleanor strokes her hair, her expression gentle and unguarded. Liam takes the helm, his gaze soft as he watches them. He sees not a CEO and his daughter. He sees a nascent, fragile, and beautiful thing. A new kind of family, taking its first, tentative shape. That evening, after they have docked the boat and carried a sleeping Lily to the car, they stand for a moment on the empty dock. The air is cool now, smelling of salt and the coming night. The last vestiges of the sunset paint the western sky in strokes of orange and violet. The water is a mirror of dark glass. Eleanor stands beside him, her hands in her pockets. She still holds the polished steel governor weight he gave her. She keeps it in her coat pocket, a constant, solid presence. They do not touch, they do not need to. The silence between them is no longer empty or tense. It is full, it is comfortable. It holds everything they have been through and everything that might yet be. It is a silence built on shared work, mutual respect, and a child's offered cup of imaginary hot chocolate. He turns his head and looks at her. She is already looking at him. Her sharp blue eyes, once so cold and analytical, are now warm and clear. They hold no questions, only a quiet, steady understanding. He does not say, "I love you." She does not say, "Don't leave." There is no need for words. He gives her a small, almost imperceptible nod, a promise. She answers with the faintest of smiles. An acceptance. They stand there for a long time, side by side in the deepening twilight, watching the stars begin to appear over the quiet water, two solitary figures who have finally, against all odds, found their way to the same shore.